I've been looking on the official Discord server for the rules for the past week and denoted questions and answers to those questions. Here is a video with the answers to the questions. I also tried a bit of a different format for half the video, as it makes it a lot easier to find the cards online compared to actually finding them in a giant stack of cards that you have in real life. So what happens if you have a Root Spider borrowed under a land site and somebody casts Silence in the intersection between the four sites where the Root Spider is borrowed? The Root Spider is going to lose borrowing and die because it no longer has borrowing. So the Root Spider dies and the Silence stays, and that's basically it. If you have Raised Dead, and if you were to cast Raised Dead, you would actually check both your cemetery and the opponent's cemetery for cards that to summon at random. The outcome is determined usually by using dice. Can you cast Burrow on a Airborne unit? For instance, Bury would burrow target minion or artifact if able, and the answer is yes, you can burrow Airborne units onto a land site. The Airborne unit would die, and both cards would go to the cemeteries. So this is a fairly common question on the Discord server. If a unit has a lance, what can it do and how does it work? And let's start with that this unit is summoned. He gets a lance on him. The lance means that he strikes first and he has +1 to his attack. So he would actually be a 4/2 that would, if in combat with another unit, let's set this Root Spider right here, if they were to deal damage to each other, like attacking or defending, however you're gonna do that, it's up to you, but the Yellow Knight would then strike the Root Spider before the Root Spider could actually strike back. And if the Yellow Knight is able to kill the Root Spider before the Root Spider is able to strike back, the Root Spider would die without dealing damage to the Yellow Knight. So what would happen is the lance would break. When the Yellow Knight deals 4 damage to the Root Spider would die and go to the cemetery, and the Yellow Knight would now be a 3/2 without a lance on him. You can also pick up multiple lances. If you find lances somehow, you can pick them up and use them. That would stack, so both lances would be used in combat at the same time. So if he had 2 lances on him, he would then be a 5/2 with the striking first. If he had 3 lances on him, he would be a 6/2 and so on. If you have a sorcerer and you're trying to target the Root Spider with a spell that says target minion or target unit, then you must be in the same region as the target you're trying to hit. Meaning that there is the surface region and there is the underground region. So in this case, I would not be able, with the sorcerer, able to target the Root Spider with this burrow or bury. I know it's a bad example because this would actually not do anything even if the Root Spider was on top and I was trying to borrow this Root Spider with the sorcerer. He would just go to the underground and stay there because he has borrowing, so he can actually live there. So I guess this kind of serves 2 purposes, this question here. But yeah, you have to be in the same region as the target you're trying to hit. If you have a Lava Salamander or the opponent has a Lava Salamander and you cast a Vile Imp next to it or on the same side, would you be able to kill the Lava Salamander, which takes no damage from fire spells, with the Genesis ability of the Vile Imp? The answer is yes. And the reason is that the damage dealt from the Vile Imp is not fire. It is an ability that goes on the storyline, and it is not a fire ability. Vile Imp is a fire card, but the ability that he has nothing to do with fire. So in this case, you would be able to kill the Lava Salamander with the Genesis ability of the Vile Imp. Let's say you have a Death Speaker, and this step here is the corner of the map. What happens if you take a Wayfaring Pilgrim that has already been to this place here and has died, and you return him with the Death Speaker to this side right here. He would actually trigger, so he says whenever he enters each corner of the realm for the first time, you may draw a card. So in this case, if you were to return the Wayfaring Pilgrim with the Death Speaker to one of the corners of the game, he would actually trigger even if this card has already been there, because the card does not remember. As soon as it has been to the cemetery or in your hand or in your deck, or yeah, the card comes back from those zones. He no longer remembers that he has been there because he is treated as a new card, completely new card. Let's say you have a tap minion and you want to cast Whirling Blades. Whirling Blades says an ally may take up to 2 steps and then strike each enemy along their entire path. So in this case, you would be able to cast it on the Root Spider because you own the Root Spider. The Root Spider is tapped, so can it move? The answer is yes, because it doesn't move on its own. It takes 2 steps via this card, and this is different compared to if you had a card that said this unit gains +1 movement. Then you would not be able to do it because the Root Spider is already tapped and cannot move on its own. But this Whirling Blade says that an ally may take up to 2 steps and then strike each enemy along their path. This makes so the Root Spider is able to take those 2 steps and actually go there and do what the card says. Let's say that you cast Silence in the intersection of 4 sites. What happens if your opponent casts a Thunderstorm in the same place? Well, they both exist there, and they both have their abilities, and everything on the cards are checked for. And yeah, you can cast an aura on a placement and have your opponent cast another aura at the same placement. This is allowed. Let's say you have a Wayfaring Pilgrim and a Root Spider, and you for some reason want to attack one another. So the Root Spider wants to attack the Pilgrim to kill him, or the Pilgrim wants to attack the Root Spider because you want to do so. Can you actually do this? And the answer is no. You cannot attack your own units. Abilities that say you have to do it are different, and you must do so if an ability says you must attack. For instance, this Grave Golem right here moves closer and closer to the closest minion in range and then attacks that minion. Yeah, so this would actually go down here and attack the Root Spider at the beginning of the turn, killing the Root Spider, and then the next turn he would go over here and kill the Wayfaring Pilgrim. But the Golem itself cannot attack another unit you own, and the same goes for every other unit. You simply cannot attack your own units with the attack, move and attack basic ability. Let's say your opponent has a Lava Salamander and you have a Root Spider. What happens if the Root Spider attacks the Salamander? Well, the Salamander would take 2 damage and the Root Spider would take 1 damage and the Salamander would die. But the Salamander itself will not tap to deal this damage. The Salamander is just staying right as it is. There's no tapping involved when you deal damage back being attacked by another unit. Let's say you want to shoot a projectile from the Sorcerer and you want to kill something, either the Root Spider or the Lava Salamander. You can do so because the projectile sees the first where the Sorcerer is, the first unit here, and he also sees this unit here. So if you were to shoot in this direction, you would be able to kill either the Root Spider or the Salamander, or possibly both if you're shooting like fireballs or something. And yeah, that is how it works. You can actually hit the unit that is standing on the same tile as the unit that's firing the projectile. Here we have 2 different scenarios. We have the Lava Salamander and the Root Spider. The Lava Salamander is going to attack the Root Spider. The Root Spider and the Salamander are both going to assign damage to each other at the same time. There is no interaction between them. So the Lava Salamander deals 1 damage to the Root Spider, and the Root Spider deals 2 damage to the Lava Salamander. Lava Salamander dies. What happens if we have a Yellow Knight that has a lance? The lance means that he is striking first, and he has +1 to attack. So he's basically a 4/2 at this point, and he's going to attack the Slumbering Giant. And when he moves over to attack, he deals 4 damage to the Slumbering Giant before the Slumbering Giant attacks back. The lance breaks, but what happens is that the Slumbering Giant's life points go down, not its attack power. So the question here is, does the attack power go down, or does it attack back with the printed value? So in this case, after the attack of the Yellow Knight, the giant is basically a 5/1 and is going to attack back with 5 damage, killing the Yellow Knight. What happens to a nearby ally if it's struck by firebolts and there is a Shield Maiden nearby? Well, the firebolts are shot 1 by 1, dealing 1 damage at the time, and the Shield Maiden then prevents 1 damage from each instance of the firebolt. So each instance of the firebolt would deal 0 damage. That means 0 damage, 0 damage, 0 damage instead of 1, 1, 1. And therefore the firebolts would deal 0 damage completely, or in total. And there, that's basically what happens if you have a Shield Maiden nearby and somebody casts firebolts. If you have a Root Spider on their side borrowed, and the Wave Shaper is then going to flood the side by tapping and using its ability, so the side becomes flooded, then the Root Spider is going to die because it does not have Submerge, it only has Burrowing. So the Root Spider unfortunately cannot live underwater, and therefore it dies. What happens if we burrow a Root Spider under a site and its ability is now active? The Root Spider says, while the spider is burrowed, minions directly above them are disabled. That means that if this rogue were to move over, he has a stealth token on him and he is ranged. He would now lose both ranged and stealth. That means that if he were to next turn move away from the site, let's say he moved up here, now he still does not have stealth. He has ranged, but stealth is a token and it goes away. So yeah, that's basically what happens if you were to move onto a site and becomes disabled. His text box would be blanked out when he's disabled, and when he moves away he still has ranged because that is a keyword he always has unless it is disabled. But stealth is a token that's on him, and when stealth is removed it is not regained when you move away. So there are many cost reducers in this game, and the question is, can you reduce the cost of a card to 0? And the answer is yes. However, you still need to have the threshold in order to cast the card. This kobold says, at the end of your turn, quarrelsome kobold strikes themselves or another target adjacent unit. The question here is, if you were to target this 2 fairies with the kobold's ability at the end of your turn, can you actually hit it because the unit is airborne? And the answer is yes, you can. The ability would still make the quarrelsome kobolds hit the 2 fairies. We have a Thunderstorm, we have a Spider, and we have some fairies. So the Thunderstorm, at the end of your turn, it deals 3 damage at random to unit top affected sites. That means all 4 sites are considered in this calculation. So you would use some dice or a coin in this situation to determine which of these 2 units are actually hit. Because it's not going to look at one side and say, can I hit something here for 3, and then also say, can I hit something here for 3. Instead it sees all 4 sides and says, at random, one of these units are getting hit. And that is, therefore, we are going to consider both of them when hitting one unit, and it's only going to hit one time, not several times, because there are several sides. What happens if Pokas is killed by a battle mage? The answer is that the non-active player resolves the trigger first, and then the active player resolves their triggers after. So the battle mage would discard first and then draw. So the question is, will my Beast of Burden, which is carrying a Phantom Steed, have Void Walk? And the answer is that it is only one way. So the unit that is carrying another unit gives the carrying ability to the unit it's carrying. So in this case, the Phantom Steed would not give Void Walk to the Beast of Burden. Card Grievous Insult. And it says, may be cast on any ally, silence target nearby minion this turn and tap it, draw a spell. So the question is, do you need a valid target in order to cast the card in the first place? And the answer is yes. You must always have a target for a card that says target. If you do not, you can simply not cast it. The question is, if Chaos Twister lands on a minion in the void, does that count? And the answer is yes, it does count. The question is, if Captain Balthazar were to discard this trinket with his ability when he attacks a unit or site, and you then cast the trinket, does it return to the owner's hand or the controller's hand at the end of the turn? And the answer is to the owner's hand. So it's the player who brought the game piece to the game that returns it to his hand. So in this case, Captain Balthazar would not return it to his own hand, but to his opponent's hand, the player who actually brought the game piece. This question is about Bower of Bliss and cards that are like Bower of Bliss, that has a passive effect just as Bower of Bliss has. So the idea is that a minion with a Genesis ability would enter the realm. What would happen? So Bower of Bliss would actually make a mortal entering the realm a beast and silence them before the Genesis ability could trigger. So there would be no Genesis ability. The question is, what happens if you blink a mountain giant? And the answer is that you can blink it to any location. You would be able to blink any other unit, meaning that you can blink it to any 4 sites that you could. There is no restriction there. Just keep in mind that you cannot blink it to a place with only 3 sites, for instance, or 1 site or 2 sites. There must be a valid location for it to blink there. And if a mountain giant were to end up in the void, for instance, it would get banished. Cards that are hit by cards like Polymorph and Shapeshift are not going to the cemetery. They are banished when they are getting hit. Let's say you have a Squirming Mass and the site next to it is a root spider that is burrowed under the site. What happens if the root spider dies? Does the Squirming Mass gain power? No. The answer is no, because the root spider is under the site, so it's not in the same region as the Squirming Mass, which is above the sites. Let's say you have a 1-powered minion and it gets a shield and a sword attached to it, making it a 3-power minion. Then it takes 1 damage from Ring of Morrigan, and on the same turn an opponent removes the sword and shield. What happens to the minion? Does it die from having taken 1 damage and only having 1 power now? And the answer is yes. Damage is marked on minions or units in general until the turn ends. When a card says X steps away, what does that mean? For instance, this card says 2 steps away, so you can take 1 step in front of you and then 1 step to the right. That is still legal. The opponent has a bottomless pit and you have an airship and another minion. What happens if you carry a minion into the bottomless pit? Well, you can carry the minion in there, leave it there, it can attack the site, it can do everything it wants. It will not get killed by the bottomless pit because the minion that is getting carried in there has Airborne as long as it's with the airship itself. The question is, if you have a minion near Mask of Mayhem at the beginning of your turn, do you have to attack with the minion before you can cast a spell? And the answer to that question is yes. There's no window in between you getting the turn and the minion having to attack where you can actually cast a spell, so you have to attack first and then cast spells afterwards. So the question is, if you have a body of water with a giant shark in it, and another body of water or a site gets flooded, so it becomes a part of the body of water where the sharks is in, do units in that new body of water actually get attacked by the giant shark? And the answer to that question is no, because the units have to move into the body of water before they can actually get attacked by the shark. The shark do not react to a side getting flooded with a unit on it, or two bodies of water entering, becoming one, that does not count. So here the question is, does the Dragonets having a Poisonous Dagger on him make his triggered ability a lethal 1 damage hit? And the answer is yes. The 1 damage would be lethal to any unit that takes that 1 damage, because it has lethal. Considering that the vampire is a undead unit and it is attacking or is blocked by a Templar, the Templar would not take any damage. It prevents all the damage instead of taking it, and therefore you would not heal with the vampire.